Hello and welcome to the PP show. Today I have with me someone very special and close to my heart, a woman that I really look up to, and in fact I want to be like her when I grow up. She's a preacher and a teacher, Mrs. Tracey Kipgen, the headmistress of Apple Buds Academy. So I am warmly welcoming her to my talk show.
Thank you for welcoming me in your show, PP. I'm greatly honored to be with you.
I know you in and out, but I don't think my audience does. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and, of course, your family.
My full name is Lhingneineng Tracey Kipgen. I was born in Sirhima, Nagaland, and I graduated from Patkai Christian College, and after that I went to Calcutta Bible College and did my M.Div and graduated in 1999. And I served as a youth secretary of Kuki Baptist Association, Nagaland, from 1999 to 2006.
Okay, that's complete information needed to be here. Thank you so much for doing that. You have been serving the Lord your whole life.
Yes.
Till today.
Yes.
So is this something you always wanted to do since you were young? And I would also like to know your inspiration.
It's a pleasure for me to share about my life and like my testimony. Since when we were small, I think my inspiration is my parents, because my father asked us when we were quite small what we would like to become in our future life. So I don't remember what my siblings said, but then I still remember vividly that I told my father that I wanted to become an air hostess. So my father prayed for all of us. My child wanted to become like this child wants to be like this, so he prayed for all of us. And after that, when I was in class 8, there was in 1988, one pastor came and preached in our church. I remember him, he's Pastor Chin Zatang, and then he challenged us to commit our life for full-time ministry. So I just got up and then walked up to the stage, and then I surrendered my life to serve God as a full-time worker. And then I told my parents that after graduation, I would like to go for theological studies and serve the Lord full-time. And I'm really thankful to my parents even today also, because once I shared this dream with my parents, they started praying for me that my child has changed her dream, and then she wants to become a full-time worker, and she wants to become a theologian. So they prayed for me so that I could become what I wanted to become. So I'm really thankful to my parents because they were very supportive. And even when I was doing my theological studies, our church people, some of them came and then told my parents, why don't you apply to our association for sponsorship? But I told my parents, please don't give me for sponsorship, because if somebody sponsors me, then I would be obliged to serve in that association or organization because they have sponsored me. But if God wants me to work there, even if no one sponsors me, I would work in a particular area. So my parents, even though they had so many difficulties, even financial problems, but still then I'm very grateful that they have been fully supportive of me. And then during my school years and even during my theological years, they were there for me, and then they supported me financially without help without asking help from anyone. So I think that's what happened. And then serving the Lord has been a dream since I was in high school.
What are some of the stumbling blocks that you have come across as you work in the Lord's ministry?
Everywhere we face problems, but fortunately I don't take these problems as stumbling blocks, because I take them as life lessons and stepping stones in our ministry. The first lesson that I learned was when I went to Bible school. In the first place, I expected that everyone there would be so holy, and then it must be something like a mini paradise where everyone loves one another. But after reaching there, I found that everyone was so human. And then, there could be times when even lecturers also, they quarrel with one another, and they might stay there, without talking to one another for days together. So I was actually surprised, but then I felt that, okay, this is really human nature. And these people who have committed themselves for full-time ministry also are still human, and they are not the holy people that I expected. So that was the first lesson that I learned, and actually I was really comfortable because I knew then that people are still human even if you serve the Lord. So that was the first lesson. And then the second lesson was when I started working in the ministry. So when I actually work with people, I began to realize that once in a while, the very people whom we look up to for support and guidance and for correction, they could be the people who are the ones who are pulling us down or discouraging us in our activities or in the way we serve the Lord. So that also was very difficult for me to digest at the time. And sometimes I was so hurt, but then I tried to cope up with that one, and I also realized that this is pure human nature, and then I had to understand that this is a particular person's nature, and then I also have my own nature, which some people might not have expected from me as a servant of the Lord. So I take it that all these are not these problems are really not stumbling blocks, but they are eye-openers for me, and then it makes me to understand better about people, and it also helps me to accept my shortcomings, because I have to accept that I'm still a human. And then even though I'm serving the Lord and I've committed for the Lord's service, for full-time ministry, but still then I am still a human and I have my shortcomings. So I have to accept that in myself as well as in others also. So I'm really thankful for those lessons.
You being the headmistress of this Apple Buds Academy, I would like to know, when did the idea of establishing school take form in your mind?
That's a good question. The idea of establishing a school was never mine. It was my husband's. So after we got married, he said, why don't we start a school? Because actually at that time, he was helping some children who have been affected by ethnic clashes and all whose parents have been taken away. And then he said, why don't we start a school, especially for small children? So I said that, oh my God, I've never taught in a school. I've never been in a school environment. So how could I ever start a school? So that's out of the question. Okay, so I was no like that. But then after serving in Emmanuel School for 5 years, and our son started going to school, and then my mind was formed, and maybe the idea was already put into my mind by what my husband desired, and then he shared with me. So I started just dreaming about a school where we can do things a little bit differently from what the every other school has been doing, so that it will be a school where children will come and then feel so much at home that they would like to come again and again, and it would be so enjoyable. So I started to dream about that one. After 3-4 years of collecting information and observing what has been going on. And when I talk about schools, I can't forget Sir Nengkhongah Kipgen. He was the principal of Emmanuel School Haipi, because he was quite dependable, and then he was quite qualified to hold that post. And then I learned so many things from him. And then after 5 years, so I told my husband, okay, if you really want to start a school, I'm ready now. So that was when we started school. But I give credit to my husband, and in one way or the other, as the Bible tells us that God made woman to be to be a helper. So in one way, I felt that I am helping my husband to realize one of his dreams. So when we started the school, I told him, one of your dreams have been fulfilled. Okay, so that was how it started. And then
there are so many women in the world snatching credits from their husband, and here you are, blowing your husband's trumpet, which is why I like you and I want to be like you. I want to know, like, what makes Applebuds Academy unique and special?
Okay, the first thing that makes Applebuds Academy is that it is a child-centered education center. So whatever we do, we put the children as the most important part of the school. And then whenever we have programs, we always ask the students to be up there, and then we will be watching down there. So that way, and the students enjoy being in the spotlight. And then one thing that we make sure is that whenever we have a program, we might be showing so many things which are very special and so nice, but then every parent who comes to the school will be looking for their children. Are my children up on stage? So we make sure that for every single program, all the students are on stage at least once. That is on Parents' Day. Other days, for example, we just had talent hunt. But for talent hunt, we have been to screening, and just like, even though they are not very good comparing to other school children, but then for our school in their classes, we have selected the best ones, and then we are asking them to perform. That is competition. But on Parents' Day, we make sure that all the children are on stage at least once, so that the parents who came for Parents' Day would be proud to see that their children are up there. So that is one thing. And the second thing is that we want to make sure that every child is equal, whether their parents are laborers or whether their parents are officers. Okay, there has been some parents who came to me saying that, my son or my daughter, she's got special treatment every time, and then, he might be expecting this one, that one, that one. Okay, I'm sorry, but we are going to treat every child at the same level. And the parents also accept that. And they themselves have commented that this is a place where all children are treated equally. But whereas in some places, it might be a condition of survival of the fittest. Okay, so that is another thing. And then for that reason, we have been providing lunch ever since we started the school. So whether the lunch is big or small or tasty or not very tasty, doesn't matter. But what we wanted in our children is that they shouldn't need to bring lunch box from home. And no one should bring money to school, so that everyone comes there, and then during lunch break they will be given whatever is being served. And then if they are not willing to take that one, they are quite happy to take it for their siblings at home, or they share it with their friends, but there's no complaint. Okay, so that is another way of making sure that the students are equally treated. And one thing I'm happy about is that I treated my children along with the others so equally that my second son, when he first went to nursery class, his friends didn't know that I was his mother. Okay, so the babysitter, she would sometimes go to their rooms, and then his friends would tell her, your mother is coming, your mother is coming. They never knew that he was my son. So when I found that out, I said that, wow, one of my dreams is fulfilled, because I wanted that to happen, and no one thought that this is my son and this is my daughter, and I favored them from other students. So that is another thing.
So that's very ear-pleasing, actually. I've been here for quite some time, and I noticed, and I actually experienced, I have first-hand experience, and I am very impressed, and I want you to carry on with whatever you're doing right now. The conversation was very interesting, and I don't really want to end the show, but at some point we need to. Why not? So I've got one last question for you. How do you balance work, school, and your ministry? You're still actively serving the Lord, at the same time actively involved in the school, and I wonder. So,
thank you for the question. Let me twist the question. How does an educated lady balance her time with family and work? Let me answer that question first. Okay, so what happens is that for the educated lady, for the one who is really able, and for the modern lady, let me say, the most difficult thing is how to balance between family and work. And you won't believe, because when some people get married, two successful people getting married, everyone says that they are so matched. Right? This is a marriage made in heaven. But then what happens is that people find difficult to adjust with the family life as well as the career. So what happens is that some very very good couples, let me say now, some very well-matched couples, they separate. The reason is that they can't adjust between family and work. So there is one thing that working women must realize, because and I always say to my audience whenever I go for camps and other things, especially women who have gone up so much in the society. It is very difficult to come down as a new bride, as a new daughter-in-law, and settle in a new home. So I always suggest that, because if some women activists hear my talk, they might want to murder me, okay? But as a servant of God, as a lady who is teaching ladies how to be godly in their family life. So I always say that when we get married, I should leave my qualifications, I should leave my salary, okay, at the door before entering my husband's home. Because sometimes they are a blessing, because salary is also a blessing, my education is also a blessing. But if I'm not careful in how I use those in my married life, what happens is that they are the very factors that cause me to be divorced from my husband. So I always suggest that you leave your qualifications, you leave your salary, and then most of the time, very capable ladies get more salary than their husbands. So the problem arises with ego, right? And the problem, starts coming up with who gets more money and then who has more power. Okay, so because money is power, if I get more money, I may like to use more power than my husband. Okay, so for Christian ladies, so that is what I always suggest. And when we come to, when we go to work, I may be an officer under whom so many people are working. So I may be an overseer. But when I come into the family life, what happens is that the Bible tells us in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22, that women submit to your husbands as the church submits to Jesus Christ, because as Jesus is the head of the church, the man is the head of the woman. So that is one thing Christian ladies should remember. Otherwise, there might be a problem in the home life too. And then when we have that is between home life and work. Okay, so in home life, if your husband is not happy, then your work, your life at work also may be a disaster, because it reflects, right? The condition of our home life reflects on the situation where we are working, and the result is seen in the way I work. So that is one thing. And then after starting a school here, it has been a great challenge. And then, some of the things that I did for my family, now I don't have the time to do for them. But that one I give credit to my family members, and then even my mother-in-law as well as my husband, they have been so understanding, so they've been so supportive. And then I have to thank my niece also, who's staying with us, taking care of all my children ever since I got married, and then ever since I started teaching. So she has been here. As long as she's here, then my children feels at home. So I can just go away and work in my school, as well as whenever I have time, I go out for preaching. But what happens is that since we have decided to start this school, and then this school is a place where we have chosen to serve the Lord until the Lord comes back to receive us. So this is we take this as our ministry. So I made it a point that I wouldn't go for speaking engagements unless there is a holiday at school. But there are some instances where 1 or 2 days are being used. Okay, I used to take leave 1 or 2 days, but I try to make as far as possible that I should go only when we have holidays. And one other thing is that I've also made it a point that I won't have any more than 2 engagements in 1 month, whatever happens. So that is how I try to balance. But then I thank my husband also, because he's the one who takes me there and then who brings me back home. So because of that, I'm able to just continue with my ministry. Thank you.
I hope and pray that I get a husband like yours, and someday I'll blow his trumpet.
Better than that.
Hopefully. Pray for me, all right? Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Mhm.